It's a little bit off. I think it's alright though. It's alright. Hello, dear friends of light. And I say light because light is the essence from which everything comes. Science will have it say, as it is a void for the current time continuum until they decide that they wish to work together, allowing an open possibility that they have not proved the proof of life, whereby certain instruments will be able to come forth. But hello, dear friends. You know, I wish that the school setup could be in such a place where you are already here and you could be in direct communication with me. If you want to ask a question, I could have a device and I could just share, or if you have an idea, I could respond to your idea or your teaching. Soon, I believe this will come about, but anyways, we have to work with what we have. And right now, this is what we have. My friends of light. This is a nice greeting to be able to understand that our livelihood of being alive at this current moment is beyond what we conceive as possible for the glory of this entire planetary body. What I mean is that in the different stages and the two sides of the coin, there is always that aspect of the beyond. And how to get to that beyond is by understanding that we are part of it, and that what we are already a part of now is a key that can go to the beyond when we give it to others, when we share it. And right now we are living in a time when it's very hard to share certain things, especially physically. On the internet, it is a lot more open. And that is why it is a rejoicing opportunity to be able to share the things from the spirit within us, if we can discern and purify our vehicles, our parts of ourselves that correlated to different levels of vibration, emotions, thoughts, identifications. These are all different levels, and by our willingness, well, I should say that through the willingness of sharing in whatever means possible, can the elaborate beauty of experiencing and really knowing the purpose and the beauty of coming together. And even if we are not always together physically, that we will have this oneness physically in ourselves, where it may not be as intense when we have another person with us, but that it can be, to our degree of devotion, an opportunity to go beyond anything we have ever experienced. And it is through establishing this presence, this open space within us to be flowing, and to have it flow is a very intricate decision-making process where every day we are given certain various choices that refine or decline our perception of what we know as the connection we have to all people. My dear friends, as I have begun yesterday, sharing various things regarding the world we live in, the state that we're living in, the potentials that we have, every sharing that I try to allow to come through me will be precisely around this scale of understanding the collective global situation in a way that is balanced, not too intense, but not too passive, you can say. And finding that balance that allows that spark of light to be ignited, that drives us to connect with other people, whether it be on the internet, through books, through media, through posters, and perhaps it's little words that you share. Perhaps it's being in that state of the breath of life, inhaling deeply the flow field that is not just determined by hydrogen and oxygen fused together, but it is a state and particle that can allow the space by our intentions to be enriched with happiness. And you can feel an atmosphere that's happiness and an atmosphere that is devoid of such things. And we have the potential through the breath to not only cleanse and raise our spiritual centers, which I talked in that cut video, where these centers are located. Chakras, you can call them, energy centers that correspond to different qualities. The breath is one way, as with other ways of intentional interaction. And it is a supreme beauty to be able to enter that flow field. As for me, it's more of a rare case that happens because there are very few people willing to go to the level of which is to be together despite our ideas we have together. This world is embedded in fear, and it is by us being here that we can transform piece by piece of it, so that some of the bigger pieces of this world can understand that that was a state of our making. And so the breath may allow for a transformation to come within your presence and atmosphere, and it is directed outward as you release the breath. And the deeper you go, the more of a transformation will take place. And yes, this will affect the physical body. So much of the things that I say you may call a mystery, and some of you may have understood the times of past where there were such schools called mystery schools. And though I may know some things, I will let you know that I do not know many things. And it's precisely by my ability, and those of you who can accept that you don't know so many things, can allow room for a new experience to breed, because unless we have that, I guess you could say, experience that there is more that we can have, it is for us as an inheritance of being the statesmen and women of the land, children of God, the Father, Mother. We can imbue ourselves with the Father, Mother in us. And that is precisely what is so much needed today. The Father, Mother elements masculine and feminine, in perfect balance, where we can nurture ourselves and we can give ourselves that courage, which the mother sometimes can personify, and it can go back and forth. And there are yin and yangs you can put redefinitions to. I mean, you can redefine and subjectify what has already been said as what is the yin, what is the yang, what is the mother element, and what is the masculine element. And this may sound a little bit all over the place, but it's just an understanding that can make life easier to grasp for the different laws and the type of clockwork that is already embedded inside of all of us. And this is for the information that doesn't really make sense. It is exactly for you, though, to receive or not receive based on your ability to understand what I'm saying can be used in the world. We have gone through a time in the past century, if you have or have not understood, whereby there have been these mystery schools, using the vocal patterns to create distinctions in Earth's reality for people to wake up, or understand more so that they are already awake, but that we can consciously choose to not consciously understand what we already know at the higher levels of our being. And the higher levels of our being consist of going back to the center of the universe, where it's like parents in these days. Generation to generation, from the beginning of the center of the universe, solar system to solar system, containing within itself a sun, passing on another sun, all the way to a formation where through each of these stages we have different selves. And in the beginning, part of ourselves that we relate to is just a vehicle. That is not the pure awareness that so many people talk about as the part of us that is truth, the part of us that is love, the part of us that is life. And that you can call it many names, but what we have down here is just a training program, a training opportunity to be able to merge what we know ourselves as consciousness, vibration, frequency, and energy. You can put those three together as an entity to merge back beyond what our thoughts and feelings and identifications try to contain for an understanding. And it's behind the words that perhaps you may be able to understand some of the things that is being said. But one of the goals we have is not only to fulfill a certain project, which not everyone precisely had an elaborate course of action of how they could really define the world around them through physical manifestations. Because some of the layers of duality, fear, aggression, is at a state where certain individuals cannot make certain decisions because, as I've said, the degree is label it as an extreme distance from where their level of conscious being knows life to be at. And the switch to creating organizations and movements and calls to action where there is alchemical projects put together to help others understand more of who they are cannot be done by everyone. As there is healing traumas and various forms of patterning programming that is entrenched not to say that they can't overcome it, for precisely there are some, as I have said, individuals that have come to overcome it. To live out a non-reactionary pattern, they do not have to give their power away to a source that only wants more power for them to see that they don't have any authority when it comes to the separate mind and the separate world, where there are separate objects and intentions that are separate from one another, from helping each other grow in a natural aspect. To live life fully. Now I want to talk about the roles that we have in society that make up the family. And right now it is very, very, very degraded. Nonetheless, that we are still here, that means that there is always opportunity to do what we can to prove and pave a way as an example for others to follow that can build a family that is structured to have the future generations live on, not only in purpose and creative harmony, but for the parents to hold a livelihood that complements each other, not based on the commercial and entertainment industry's objective force, to have them understand that it is through the glamour of vices and shiny baubles and various forms of the trend that make people, or I shall say, consider to push people, that unless they do not live up to these standards, that they shall be put down and looked at as less and unequal to everyone. If they don't have the right clothes, if they don't have the right body, if they do not have the right personality, if they do not have the right certification, qualification, and I can go on. People live all their lives towards these goals, and that is not doing a bit of a thing. It is actually degrading much of the things that we call this rock of earth, which is more than a rock. Because there are places here that there are groups of individuals that go to every night, sometimes during the day, for the rare individuals who are known as adepts, where the vibration is lifted up. So there are the sponsors, the teachers, the ascended masters whom I've just named, the heavenly host, being able to bring forth direction. And because of the physical matter is so dense and the initiations are very encrusted to keep individuals sufficiently ensnared, most individuals can't remember what they have gone through, but inwardly they are brought forth. Inwardly I mean that they are intuitively guided to know that they can participate in certain communal activities that is not so popular, and this popularity usually inbreeds the decision to help others, serve others naturally, selflessly, to do things that is unspoken, not even considered to be done, because of the outcry and revenge that others may wish to retaliate against you for saying that you are God, for saying that you have a potential to help other people, for you are even capable of achieving a certain degree of knowledge that is allowable by the political establishment, the religious establishment, science, education, healthcare, on and on and on, blah, blah, blah. That's what I call it. Blah, blah, blah. For we do have the potential, and it is our right by our living, breathing, momentary state to just live that gives us the opportunity to live of what most the history calls supernatural phenomena. Call it a play on words, but it really is the natural state of being the children of the Most High. And it's not that this high is distant in the fact that makes us the most low. It is frankly the opposite, where we are both at the same time, not considered in rank high or low, but considered in consciousness, atmosphere, and environment. Nonetheless, we are here for the primary purpose of understanding the initiations that will come through our day-to-day life that may be in our partner's relationship, where we understand that we have been living a life toward the vices, towards the glorification of the physical senses. If it feels good, do it. Living that animal pattern for however long it takes, not as you should or should not, based on some standard, but just because perhaps some of us have felt that it's a repetitive instinct to follow that compulsion that brings our senses to an extremity of where separation is not real. And we've used this extreme to breed forth activities between household relationships, all the way to groups where it's gone quite out of control, where the animal instinction to multiply has turned into an animal instinction to gratify. And multiply, I don't even sense that is a bad thing if that's not your intention, because I want to clarify some things about the mystery schools and some about the path of ancient wisdom. And it is can looked at as the path of raising the Kundalini, but I'm not going to get into this. It is simply about merging the masculine and feminine aspects together, where a deficiency in the roles of society in which people play out, there is usually a collective polarity maintained by those who are feminine having feminine. I mean, those who are genders of females have a collective stronger majority of the feminine qualities, which is revolving around gentility, nurturance, understanding, compassion, masculine being direct decisiveness, willing, imagination, which is something that can be hard to understand. In other words, the willing to question and think of that which is not thought of, to provide a certain stability for your practical livelihood all the way to your spiritual livelihood. And most men and women have forgotten that these polarities will lead them higher than the practical sexes through the stimulation of sex, whereby that is the glorification of life. And so, neither wrong, neither right, neither bad, neither good. It is just truly what this collective wishes to experience. And so through living lives out, planets out, living in collective activities to participate in something that is, in the end, separating each other, will find that inner station to reject these future activities in the future. But there have been many millenniums, eons of individual reincarnation, and not of the general population, but of certain sophisticated individuals who have used their power for the glorification of corruption and greed, implanting certain programmings through very inhumane methods to understand that we can't do anything and that we are nothing and that we came here just simply to do nothing. Many other things they have programmed into us, and we feel them a lot subconsciously when we go out in our day-to-day lives and we embrace people, and we feel that you can't say certain things because if you do, there will be what we call a spiritual crucifixion. And that is precisely why we are here for each other. And that is precisely why I'm speaking now, to give you a new opportunity to do something that perhaps you wanted to do before you came here, to establish a foundation for the future generations that can allow others to understand more of why life is, and truly what is capable, what are we capable of through understanding the play of life, the theater that many of us have forgotten are wearing costumes, and we have the opportunity to put on a different one. My beloved ones, the love we have for each other is actually so great that it cannot be spoken. It's an experience of immense connection that is able to be activated consciously, individually, when we decide to intentionally interact vertically through perhaps the prayer and decrees and various mantras that have been given through the past mystery schools, which I probably will share with you. Not the entire foundation of the school has been set in stone, but anyways, this vertical, as which I've just spoken of, this vertical connection that we can establish with our higher selves, the presence that created these vehicles or these centers for establishing a training program. What is it truly to mean? What is it truly to live out life in separation and also connection in its various forms that can be interpreted through this dense planet, which has no bounds, as you know yourself as spirit once again. It's just a process that usually takes people a matter of decades. My beloved friends, it's an honor to be able in this position to share what I know through the technology that has been graced by the Ascended Masters. Paved way by those today who are continuing to work for others and have sustained a balance against the counterbalance from which certain individuals have used their power to try to deceive and digress democracy, diplomacy, and divine will. And this vertical establishment of connection, of oneness, that we also wish to have, is also supplemented twofold by another connection that is horizontal, through our brothers and sisters that we live through here, establishing a connection, a figure 8 flow, which is also known as the infinity symbol, that allows for the energies between our centers inside of us to be well known. And the aspect that we can work together, that does not bring forth consistent arguments, so that we can understand who is right, so we can bring the solution away. But it is precisely through working together that incorporates that understanding that we are all equal, that there is more than just a practical self that dies at the end of this life and there is nothing left after that. But we look at the stars and we can embrace that ourselves have a connection between these manifestations, because if you go deep in the silence, of which has been talked about a lot in the East, and if you have gone deep into your own psyche, unraveling the manifestations, meaning the choices of why you made the choices to reject and resent and be fearful towards one another, be it in your close immediate family, your friends, or even your co-workers and those in the community, or wherever you are dealing with your affairs. To precisely look at him, understand, why did I? What was holding me in such a state where I could have just turned away like that and say those things just in that way? Precisely. A twofold complementary action by the history of duality that is throughout this universe outplayed, although it is the minority interplay that is smaller than 0.01% of the inhabitants of the entire universe beyond this galaxy. But as we still have this cosmic perspective, in which you have no idea what my source is based on, an inability to recognize intuition, accepting that perhaps intuition may say that there is more than what I know, because I do not perhaps understand why everything works the way they work, why people think the way they think, and why the certain structures are here the way they are here. Going deeper into this pattern of which we have lived many of our lives, where we have refused to give and shine and be in the face of whatever we have faced, still gives us the eternal lesson to understand that we can relive these experiences and still have a connection with all these ones, reoccurring, repatterning, flashing cards. As flashcards, as people and experiences that we have in the now and in the relatively soon future, to act a different way than we have in the past. By perhaps knowing that there is a part of them that is connected to us, and if there is a opportunity that we can give them that may or may not be able to help them, what will happen if they can see that they are more, and be inspired with a similar vision that may not be to the intensity of which we know, but such a degree whereby they realize that there is a similitude, a connection between their immediate family, their immediate family and friends and social community, giving them strength to be able to look and study what of what current educational platforms do not allow the release of such knowledge. Once we unravel it, dear beloved ones, then we go through the process of integration and a sense of equilibrium to glorify the state of consciousness where the physical matter around us begins to transform into a mold that we thought only certain individuals had the power to do, certain mystics had the power to do. But we realize in that very moment that when we become and allow God, the I Am, the Divine Spirit, Source, Creator, the presence of all life to manifest through us, we may understand what a leader may have to go through. Precisely in that moment, we will experience being that leader. And when we do be that leader, we can allow for that present opportunity to take hold, for others to be leaders, as which I have kind of given a similar expression to by my previous statement. And the trick of unraveling these things and outplaying our affairs in our workplace and holding that vibration where we are emitting a level of frequency that is just so joyous, no matter what kind of music is in the background, no matter what kind of task we are given, no matter what we have to say that is not truly authentic to what we want to say, we can stand in a presence that is in connection to the vertical and horizontal oneness between the brothers and sisters here, whom we all are truly interwovenly connected, and the Ascended Host, who directed the ideas and the platform of many critical situations, even to the smallest of what one would seem as a situation where a child burdened in the city receives a fragment of what would be known as a beam of light, to where they immediately may not be able to see the beam, but maybe also experiencing a joyful presence that has a visionary quality, or maybe it has a decisive quality to act and to perhaps go out in nature. But precisely a small act to a large act, considering amount of the prevention of wars and various famine, disease, economic breakdown, and what have you may, where many casualties can come about through decisions made by people to not really want to understand that they are more than what people have told them they are, through the acceptance of certain religious doctrines or certain scientific impediments that are impeccable. Or through any sort of political and or influential part of society governing what we should or should not accept, being the reality of what the Ascended Masters will allow us to work with new technology that can't be monopolized, with a new frame of reference for a nation body to undergo a collective equalization, where they understand a similar providence of what life is and what is possible to understand, what is possible to help others, and understanding that life is for the value of creating, perhaps, that lasts, or decreating, that is temporary. In the cosmic journey, in our independent life journey, it all has its ripple effect back. When we send it out, it comes back to us. My beloved friends, I wish to talk to you about the sacred fire. I've mentioned about invocation. And I'm calling to your inner presence, the heart of which you are hearing me, but it is the hearing that actually understands that what I'm saying is something that you already know. The sacred fire. A threefold flame indwelling in the center of your heart, coordinating with certain qualities and colors, but nevertheless having that state of vibration, that a blueprint that allows for you to breathe, and live and move and have your being doing whatever you wish to do for a certain period of time. And if it's to help others, it shall be to the glory of your life to the end of time, which is precisely the word that has been commonly worded as eternity. You call it immortality. The time continuum into infinity. And the precise subject of the sacred fire is something that of the worded breath, or even the deepened breath, or even the decisive intention to serve others. Understand yourself, perhaps. The sacred fire inbreeds, indwells, and expands, contracts, goes in and out, up and down, revitalizing and reconfiguring what is possible in the human life, whereby maybe on most likely for those who apply the sacred fire in its more intense dynamic pursuits, the invisible realm will be interplayed by those who continue to do the same things around the world. By the power of breath, invocation, mantra, decree. It's been proven throughout the Eastern mystery schools, and one that I may talk about later, centered in the Gobi. Nevertheless, there are certain alchemical phrases. And I do strongly believe there is a language that we can create, as which I sense I have created, which I don't sense what was really me. But gives me the state of supreme joy to be able to formulate an expression that is not so crude as our languages have it on earth. Where I sense, especially in the American English language, you have to... There are connotations that people have to certain words that aren't so necessarily understood through the individual's inner intention behind the words. Because some people may say certain words with a positive intention, and the other person may very well likely negate what your intention was, because their connotation to the word was entirely different, composing into a sentence which was not along their standards to what they have defined the dictionary through their educational life. Or perhaps I should say the dictionary defining them and their educational life. I will apply for a petition to see if this grant of this language can be made known, because I use it in my daily life, trying to discern whether it is something that can be helpful, or rather than using a language that is kind of unknown as to what the definitions are, but it's a language based on intentions only. One example is just like this. I'm going to say the phrase that we all are one. Thank you for listening to me. Arnaduish kalarna kuhu nama. Diha nasuta lakuta. That seems much more flowing, but it is the use of something that I do not fully understand with my outer vehicles. So I will present help so I can understand this. But there are certain words, phrases, and vibrational patterns we can repeat that allow for people to understand that they can be in the space where there is more to life by your service to life. And there is protection that comes with it. The vibrations of this world. There is clearance from certain energies, entities, and I will call force fields that are in the invisible realm that seem to bind people to certain patterns and ways of thinking that can't be cleared. And then there's what I call transformation, that is more on the sides of permanent, whereas protection and clearance gives temporary, because it may not involve truly resolving the reasons why you did the things that you did that made you feel or think the belief systems and or experiences you have felt. And this transformation process, clearing process, protection process, all indwells into a collective processes that is vertical, using the cooperation of the ascended host, the ascended masters, the heavenly host, to intercede where spoken word becomes more natural. And they shall intercede on behalf of your actions that are physical, practical, and beyond the practical, because sometimes we choose things that are beyond what we can see as real, to allow for a greater revolutionary experience to take hold within our own lives. Pardon me. And once this has been established vertically, which is not necessary for everyone to fulfill the divine plan, although for those who understand and accept it may find the experience much more easing, because they have the power to do many things, but they do not always have the authority to do many things despite our physical actions and our ability to be aware of what they can do and what they have done in the past. And so, by our ability to put the vertical actions of our, I guess you could say, manifestation of our divine plan inputted, I'm going into various extremes here, you could say, but that could be normal to me. And so, what I'm trying to say here is, as you may be willing to partake in this, it may allow for a greater determination to be horizontally inputted into the life in, through, and around you, your community, and so forth and so on, whereby the physical actions can manifest through spoken words, through the breath, through this conscious studying of material that is purified, clear, and intuitive towards your ascension and the ascension of others from earth and moving on, moving in, merging with your I am, your God source, which comes in various forms, where there's an intermediary, and then there's all I have to say is a lower vibratory consciousness of its same self, manifesting through our physical, emotional, mental, and identificational vehicles, known as the conscious you. And some of these invocation prayer alchemical formulas that were stated in the mystery schools can be found at transcendencetoolbox.com and heartcenter.org. Perhaps there will be more coming through. Right now, they have everything that is pretty much needed right now in society. Now, sense the need right now for more to be given. So it is my joy to share with you that which is fulfilling my life, to the ability where I can reach out to you right now and precisely give you what I'm giving you. Lo and behold, we are the flame that is undying if we will to accept that experience and reality is a merging activity with everything. For why would everything not want to merge with each other if we truly saw that one another could potentially take our power, separate our power from collectively building on, up, and more of the kingdom of God. The kingdom beyond religions, scientific proofs, theories, and philosophical worded expressions to decide the fate of who and what is truly being done in greater or lesser degrees, or in completely connecting oneness degrees. This is what I have for you today. And I hope it didn't stop recording like it did yesterday, I guess, where the video was somewhat cut. Nevertheless, God's will be done. As you are manifest as God's will, which is really your will. Because if you remember clearly enough, look behind the traumas enough, or that fear that comes up in your work, in your relationships, in your business inquiries, that behind it all is an eternal lesson to understand that no matter what is happening, you have the opportunity to look at the connection everyone has to you right here and right now, that it may be beyond your physical sight, but is truly beyond the physical separation of what has been consistently told to you that life truly exemplifies as separate objects, separate minds, and separate intentions. Remember, wherever you are, no matter what you're doing, that not only some of these tools that I've shared with you can be helpful in going about through your day, but that the greater understanding of the being inside of you, that threefold flame spark of the sacred fire, may merge in various ways to encapsulate an experience that integrates the tools, the breath, the power of the spoken word, which I will validate in the future. And I will not use so much in the future until it is validated, whereby you can establish that integration and equilibrium that knows only life as you, and as you knowing only life as one being, one energy, one source, one intention that is individualized through many sons and daughters that are complementary if they so wish to look behind the school of hard knocks which they are picking to choose to live out and play. It is not wrong, it is not right. It is just simply the experience of which they understand life only has for them through an inability to look beyond the fear that says if they do, they will die. Welcome to the School of Being, where we will know, if you want to will to know, planet Earth and its extremes of purging the dualistic mind, for we to know ourselves as only one forevermore. Amen.